You are watching Access LaPorte County, Channel 97. Coming up next is the May 16th, 2023 meeting of the Michigan City Common Council. You can find more information for this meeting by visiting www.accesslaportecounty.org.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the May 16th meeting of the Michigan City Common Council. I'd like to ask you that you silence all electronic devices and stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and the silent prayer.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Ms. Nyla, on the roll call, please.
Mr. Dabney.
Present.
Mr. Fitzpatrick.
Present.
Mr. Mack. Ms. Deitch. Mr. Don Prespolinski.
Present.
Mr. Paul Prespolinski.
Present.
Mr. Simmons.
Present.
Ms. Jagus.
Present.
And Ms. Tillman.
Present.
We have 7 present and 2 absent.
And I did speak with Councilwoman Deitch, and she made me aware of her absence tonight, and Councilman Mack will be arriving shortly. Approval of minutes.
Motion to approve. Support.
We have a motion to approve by Councilman Prespolinski and second by Councilman Dabney. Ms. Nyla, on the vote, please.
Mr. Simmons.
Aye.
Ms. Jagus.
Aye.
Mr. Paul Prespolinski.
Aye.
Ms. Tillman.
Aye.
Mr. Dabney.
Aye.
Mr. Fitzpatrick.
Aye.
And Mr. Don Prespolinski.
Aye.
We have 7 in favor and no one opposed.
Thank you, Ms. Nyla. Reports of standing committees. Finance Committee.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Michigan City Finance Committee did not meet on this evening. We will have that right now in regards to the May 16, 2024 Riverboat and Boyd Development Claims.
23.
Oh, I'm sorry, 23. I said 22.
Yep.
23.
Fast forward.
Riverboat and Boyd Development Claims docket for May 16, 2023. Fund number 2235 Riverboat claims in the amount of $8,175. EFT $0. Fund number 2504 Boyd Development $0. EFT $0. Total claims $8,175. And that invoice is for accounts payable GM Federal Check and Associates, if I'm saying that correctly, Inc., totaling $8,175. The City of Michigan City Riverboat Statement of Cash Position fiscal year to date, May 15, 2023, ending balance $6,337,437.34. That's all.
All right, thank you, Councilwoman. Claims docket. May 16, 2023, Fund 2235 Riverboat Claims, $8,175. EFT $0. Fund 2504 Boyd Development $0. For total claims in amount of $8,175. Is there a motion?
I so move. Support.
Motion to approve by Councilman Paul Prespolinski and seconded by Councilman Gene Simmons. Ms. Nyla, on the vote, please.
Ms. Jagus.
Aye.
Mr. Paul Prespolinski.
Aye.
Ms. Tillman. Aye. Mr. Dabney.
Aye.
Mr. Fitzpatrick.
Aye.
Mr. Don Prespolinski.
Aye.
And Mr. Simmons.
Aye.
We have 7 in favor and no one opposed.
Thank you, Ms. Nyla. Reports from boards and commissions. Reports of special or select committees. Reports from mayor of the city officers and departments.
Marty Corley, Chief Operations, Michigan City Police Department. Good evening, President and Board. Just wanted to give you guys an update on behalf of Chief Steve Borker, who's absent today, but we'll let you know in the last 2 weeks, we've actually implemented our utility incorporated body worn cameras and in-car cameras. It's a new system for us. In the past, we've had Axon, and with the board's approval of funds, we were able to purchase this new technology that I think will give a little bit more transparency to the police department and the public through some of the key parts of it. One of the biggest things that we like about it is that it's CAT activated. So basically it means that certain calls, when officers arrive at that call, they don't have to worry about turning it on, it comes on automatically. Also in instances where if an officer at one time gets into a foot pursuit, might not have time to cut it on, it activates it automatically. So those are some features that I think will help out in our transparency with the public in doing our job. But it was supposed to be a 3-week to a month implementation, and with their technicians and their training, we were actually done last Friday, and we weren't really due to be done at the earliest this Friday. So we have all 67 or all of our officers at this time are outfitted with the body cameras, and then all of our patrol vehicles are outfitted with the in-car cameras. And so we're testing them out. We're still in that little testing phase. We still have some technical things we have to do between our CAS system or not our CAS system, but our computers and our cards and the CAS system at the county. But Body Utility Incorporated, their technicians, and then our IT people in the county are working to get that implemented. So that should be out soon. One last update is the flat cameras are up and running. They're really helping on the streets as far as when we're not there. They're able to be some eyes and give us some warnings and some help in collecting evidence in cases at times. Also, we have Raven that we are the city and NIPSCO and a couple other entities are working together to get those placed. Hope to have those placed, if not in the next 2 weeks, by early June at the latest. And so that's gunshot detection, and that'll be critical in our proactive efforts of policing here this summer. So if there's any questions.
Any questions for Chief Corley? I have one question. So
Yes.
the system, the cameras that you previously had, what year were they from?
We've had Axon. Well, it was a 5-year contract, so we at least had them for the minimum the last 5 years. And prior to that, we probably had Axon the last, I would say, 10 years.
Okay.
But this last contract was a 5-year, and they're their most recent cameras. I mean, they have some updated stuff, but like I said, the technology that Body Worn or Utility Incorporated has was attractive to our needs here.
So it was a much needed upgrade just to keep up with the technology and the capabilities.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Chief.
Yep. Thank you.
Tommy Kolavic, 1360 Ohio Street, Officer, Common Council appointed Fire Merit Commission. I just want to pass along that tonight on the WGN News at 9, Channel 9, they're going to do a feature on the miracle of Mount Baldy. They're going to do a retrospective on that. So can't catch tonight. I'm sure it'll be streamed online somewhere. So I just want to pass that along. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kolavic. Petitions?
I'm sorry. I'm trying to answer. There are no petitions this evening.
Petitions?
There are no petitions this evening.
Communications?
Correspondence was received in the clerk's office on April 25th from Michigan City Police Department regarding the approval of amendments to their contract. We also received correspondence from the Michigan City Fire Department regarding the approval of amendments to their contract.
Thank you, Ms. Nyla. Can you please read our first resolution by title only?
A resolution by title only approving request to connect the Michigan City sewer utilities by Eric Perrin and Patricia Perrin of 3642 Birchwood Trail, Michiana Shores, Indiana. And this is introduced by Ms. Jagus.
Any comments from the sponsor?
Yes. So these are people who want to connect to our sanitary sewer. It is at no cost to the city, and it is following all the procedures that were put into place last December, where we had a change in the ordinance. So They have all their paperwork in order. Michiana Shores approved. They have to get approval from sanitary, and our approval is just like a little checkbox that we have to approve, and then everything appears to be in order.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Any comments from the public? Any comments from the public? Comments from the council?
Yes, Mr. President.
Councilman Preselinski.
Yeah, as far as incurring costs to the city, because I'm going to be sponsoring one of these resolutions probably at the next council meeting, but it should be included in the resolution that any work that is done by the sanitary district to go out and inspect the hookup, the time that it takes for the sanitary district to do that, any mileage, any gas, any costs incurred in making that project complete should be stated in the resolution so that the property owners know that they have to pay every penny of every cost of what's being incurred here. I understand that they're paying for the installation of the sewer pipe, but then there's costs incurred with the sanitary district going out there and checking on things, and the city has to be reimbursed for every cost that it incurs.
Thank you, Councilman. Any other comments from the council? Councilman Paul Preselinski.
Are you, a question for Councilman Don Preselinski. Are you saying that this needs to be amended to say that, or to have it in there, or is it not in the ordinance that we passed to the incurred costs?
Oh, I can't remember exactly verbatim what the ordinance was, but I know that it's not in a resolution, and I believe it should be in a resolution because this is what we're approving this sewer line. So they're going to pay for the installation of it. I understand that, but the property owners, if they want to hook in to the Michigan City Sanitary District, and instead of paying for hauling their sewage away, it's going to be cheaper to incur this cost, and they should have to incur the cost of the whole project. Whether it's in the ordinance or not, I don't know. But I believe it should be in the resolution so it's clear cut and dry.
Okay. Then are you saying that we should table this to make it, to rewrite the resolution?
There was no motion.
I was stating my opinion. I didn't make a motion to table anything.
Okay, I'll make a motion to table till it's clarified in the resolution, till the next meeting.
We have a motion by Councilman Paul Preselinski. Is there a second?
Second.
I have a second by Councilman Don Preselinski. Ms. Nyla, on the vote, please.
Mr. Paul Preselinski,
Aye.
Ms. Tillman,
Aye.
Mr. Dabney,
Nay.
Mr. Fitzpatrick,
Aye.
Mr. Don Preselinski,
Aye.
Mr. Simmons,
Nay.
and Ms. Jacobs.
Nay.
We have 3 opposed and 5 in favor.
All right, this will be tabled. Ms. Nyla, can you read the first ordinance on second? I'm sorry.
No,
There,
it was defeated. It's not going to be tabled.
Oh, the table was
2,
defeated.
3, 4. I'm sorry, guys.
Okay.
4 and 3.
So is there another motion?
No, there's not another motion, but I'm not making a motion.
And then those
I
four
just
to
want to
three.
make a comment.
Well,
We already took the vote.
Right.
Okay.
4 and 3.
Point of order. What exactly was the vote? I thought
That's
it
what I
was
thought it was.
for, against.
It was 3 because 4.
It's 3.
Okay.
4 in favor, 3 against.
In favor of tabling.
Tabling it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's not table.
So we're tabling.
Yes.
So it is tabled. Okay, so,
Next meeting.
Yeah.
Till the next meeting, Paul.
it just said table. So,
It's table.
all right, I know how to drive this car, guys. Thanks.
Okay.
Ms. Snyder, can you please read our first ordinance on second reading by title only?
An ordinance on second reading by title only, approving additional appropriation in the budget of the Public Safety Local Income Tax Lit Fund to fund amendments to both police and fire union contracts. And this is introduced by Mr. Fitzpatrick, Mr. Don Prespolinski, and Mr. Paul Prespolinski.
Thank you, Ms. Nyla. Any comments from the sponsors? Councilman Prespolinski.
The only thing that I have to say is that we are moving forward with the funding of the packages for the police and fire department that was negotiated a month or a month ago?
Mhm.
All right.
Thank you, Councilman. Any other comments from the sponsor?
Mr. President, one comment is, yeah, I stand behind this ordinance 120%. This is what the firefighters and the FOP was wanting the council to sit down and negotiate a new contract. And also Councilwoman Tillman, she took part, but yeah, and we're going to get this passed and we're going to get the money that's due the fire and police department. And then in order for them to strengthen up their forces and get back to full strength and move the city forward in the safety aspect. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Any comments from the public? And this will be our formal public hearing. Any comments from the public? Any comments from the public? Any comments from the public? Public comment is closed. Comment from the council. No comments from the council. This will be held over for third reading. Ms. Nyla, can you please read our next ordinance on second reading by title only?
An ordinance on second reading by title only, amending ordinance number 4654 to increase the base salaries for the positions of probationary firefighter and firefighters in the fire department of the city of Michigan City for the calendar year 2023, and also to provide members of the fire department with a one-time bonus for 2023. And this is also introduced by Mr. Fitzpatrick, Mr. Don Prespolinski, and Mr. Paul Prespolinski.
Any comments from the sponsors? Thank you, Ms. Nyla. Councilman Paul Prespolinski.
I just wanted to say that this was negotiated through our negotiating meeting, and that I believe that this is part of the tools to help us. And it specifically talks about the probationary firefighters and probationary police is in the next one, so that it's added to, because it's added to, the language is added because we do have people at the academies right now. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilman Don Prespolinski.
Yeah, Mr. President, and I should have spoken earlier on the previous ordinance. I'd like to have third reading on this evening too.
And
Support.
excuse me, Mr. President.
Councilman.
And I thought about that after we passed the last one. I was going to ask, could we make a move to go back and do the other one that Don was talking about on second and third as well?
You've had your public hearing.
Yep, we did.
So I think that's within the discretion under Robert's rules. It falls between Robert's rules and the statute, but I think you've had your public hearing.
So we've
And you're in a position where you could have had third reading had you asked for it, so.
Can we go
We're gonna go back to that ordinance.
Yeah, yes.
Okay. Do we need to do them in any specific order, or can we do this one and then go back to?
Let's do this one and then
Correct.
we'll make a motion to revisit that.
All right, thank you, sir. Any other comments from the authors? Comments from the public? Any comments from the public? Public comment is closed. Comments from the council? Was there a motion to move this to the third reading?
That's what.
So moved.
We have a motion by Councilman Paul Prespolinski and seconded by
Support.
Yeah.
Tracy.
Councilwoman Tillman. Ms. Nyla on the vote, please.
Mr. Dabney.
Aye.
Mr. Fitzpatrick.
Aye.
Mr. Don Prespolinski.
Aye.
Mr. Simmons.
Aye.
Ms. Jagus.
Aye.
Mr. Paul Prespolinski.
Aye.
And Ms. Tillman.
Aye.
We have 7 in favor and no one opposed.
Thank you, Ms. Nyla. Councilman Devon, did you have another comment?
No.
Okay,
Accept it all from the,
gotcha.
I vote.
Ms. Nyla, can you please read this ordinance on third reading by title only?
An ordinance on third reading by title only, amending an ordinance number 4654 to increase the base salaries for the position of probationary firefighter and firefighter in the fire department of the city of Michigan City for the calendar year 2023, and also to provide members of the fire department with one-time bonus for 2023. And this is introduced by Mr. Fitzpatrick, Mr. Don Prespolinski, and Mr. Paul Prespolinski.
Any comments from the sponsors?
Nope.
Any comments from the public? Any comments from the public? Comments from the council?
Motion to approve.
Have a motion to approve by Councilman Don Prespolinski and
Support.
second by Councilwoman Tillman. Ms. Nyla on the vote, please.
Oh, Michael's here. Mr. Fitzpatrick,
Aye.
Mr. Mack. Mr. Mack.
Yeah. Aye.
Okay. Mr. Don Prespolinski,
Aye.
Mr. Simmons,
Aye.
Ms. Jagus,
Aye.
Mr. Paul Prespolinski,
Aye.
Ms. Tillman,
Aye.
and Mr. Dabney.
Aye.
We have 8 in favor and no one opposed.
Congratulations. Okay, so did someone move to?
Make a motion. Revisit the previous ordinance on second reading, the approving additional appropriations in the budget of the public safety local income tax lit fund to fund amendments to both police and fire union contracts.
We have a motion by Councilman Paul Prespolinski. Is there a second? Support.
Support.
We have a bunch of seconds. Councilman Danny.
Yeah.
All right.
So Ms. Nyla, can you please read this ordinance on third reading
I think
or on the
Okay.
vote? We have to
to
vote
take
first.
third reading, correct.
We have to take the vote to go to third.
Okay. Mr. Mack,
Aye.
Mr. Don Prespolinski,
Aye.
Mr. Simmons,
Aye.
Ms. Jagus,
Aye.
Mr. Paul Prespolinski,
Aye.
Ms. Tillman,
Aye.
Mr. Dabney,
Aye.
and Mr. Fitzpatrick.
Aye.
There are 8 in favor and no one opposed.
Thank you, Ms. Nyla. Can you please read this ordinance on third reading? By title only.
An ordinance on third reading by title only approving additional appropriation in the budget of the public safety local income tax lit fund to fund amendments to both police and fire union contracts. And this is introduced by Mr. Fitzpatrick, Mr. Don Prespolinski, and Mr. Paul Prespolinski.
Thank you, Ms. Nyla. Any comments from the sponsors?
Yeah, Mr. President, just one final comment on this one is that the city council listened and the negotiating team did their job and gave the fire department here and police department a very negotiable contract, I believe. So we have done our part, even though during the time that, people wanted to, the unions wanted to meet with us, there were, outside entities saying that the city council wasn't doing their job. They didn't want to listen to anybody. in giving us, trying to scrutinize us for what we were doing. But we had to make sure all the proper people that we wanted to be involved with this were involved with it, and not just to sit down and have meetings just for the sake of having meetings. And we got all those people together, the unions, both on our side and the council side, were very congenial, professional, and we got the job done for the citizens of Michigan City, for the city council, for the FOP, for the fire department. I'm very proud of that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Any other comments from the sponsors? Any comments from the public? Any comments from the public? Comments from the council?
Motion to approve.
Support. Have a motion to approve by Councilman Don Prespolinski and seconded by Councilman Dabney. Ms. Nyla, on the vote, please.
Mr. Don Prespolinski,
Aye.
Mr. Simmons,
Aye.
Ms. Jigus,
Aye.
Mr. Paul Prespolinski,
Aye.
Ms. Tillman, Mr. Dabney,
Aye.
Mr. Fitzpatrick,
Aye.
and Mr. Mack.
Aye.
We have 8 in favor and no one opposed.
Congratulations. Ms. Nyla, can you please read our next ordinance on second reading by title only?
An ordinance on second reading by title only, amending ordinance number 4653 to increase salaries for the position of probationary patrolman and patrolman in the police department of the city of Michigan City for the calendar year 2023, and also to provide members of the police department with a one-time bonus for 2023. And this was also introduced by Mr. Fitzpatrick, Mr. Don Prespolinski, and Mr. Paul Prespolinski.
Any comments from the sponsor?
Mr. President, I'd like to have third readings on this tonight.
Support.
Okay, we have a motion to have third reading by Councilman Don Prespolinski and seconded by Councilwoman Tillman. We can move to do that, and then when we finish the second reading, we'll have the third reading. Ms. Nyla, on the vote, please.
Mr. Simmons,
Aye.
Ms. Jigus,
Aye.
Mr. Paul Prespolinski,
Aye.
Ms. Tillman,
Aye.
Mr. Dabney,
Aye.
Mr. Fitzpatrick,
Aye.
Mr. Mack,
Aye.
and Mr. Don Prespolinski.
Aye.
We have 8 in favor and no one opposed.
Thank you, Ms. Nyla. Any other comments from the sponsors? Comments from the public? Any comments from the public?
Marty Coley, Chief Operations, Michigan City Police Department. I kind of forgot while I was up there doing my comment, part to add some things, and I thought this was appropriate time. So again, thank you to the council for these monies that we'll be getting. The police department, we will be doing a one-day hiring event on May 20th. We have our marketing team prepared to market these new monies that we're receiving as part of getting people to apply. We are taking applications all the way up until the start of the testing process on Saturday. So I think it's important. And thank you all for trying to get this done tonight so that we can help boost our numbers and getting people recruited and hired. We will be hiring 4 people on May 30th to be sworn in. One of those are a letter of transfer. I can tell you these monies that you guys are approving to our salaries is helping us not only attract back some people we've lost, but also recruit ourselves through letting people know the monies that we'll have available and the pay that you guys are allowing us to now offer is very beneficial to us recruiting ourselves, getting people back. So I meant to say that during my time, but I kind of forgot. So I thought this might be appropriate time. So again, thank you all.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you, Chief. Appreciate that.
Any other comments from the public? Comments from the council? There a motion? Oh, we're going to third reading. So this will be held over for third reading. Ms. Nyla, can you please read this ordinance on third reading by title only?
An ordinance on third reading by title only, amending ordinance number 4653 to increase the salaries for the positions of probationary patrolman in the police department, the city of Michigan City for the calendar year 2023, and also to provide members of the police department with a one-time bonus for 2023. And again, this is introduced by Mr. Fitzpatrick, Mr. Don Prespolinski, and Mr. Paul Prespolinski.
Any comments from the sponsors? Councilman Paul Prespolinski.
I just wanted to say that during the negotiations at one of the forums, I believe that was sponsored by 475, that I made a commitment and a comment that I wanted to have this negotiations and enter into negotiations and hammer these negotiations out once we sat down. And that did happen. And I think that it showed everybody how to bargain. And it was a shining example of when you sit down and you have a commitment to negotiate, that you can achieve what you need to achieve and not to string it out. So I hope everyone learned from that. I know that I want to thank Tracy, that I think that it was an eye-opening experience, but I think it's working. I think it's well worth stopping the bleeding that was going on in the police department, and with people coming here and then leaving after 2 years or 3 years. And I believe we're going to see what happens now. And there's some additional work that needs to be done on having people sign an employment contract. A lot of people, some people don't like it. Some people don't like the thought of it. But I believe that if we make a commitment, which we have made and we're approving tonight, that these people, when they come here, we need a commitment from them. And if they don't want to be here, they don't have to sign the contract. We want people that want to be in Michigan City for a reason. And I believe that that is something that needs to get done. And I hope that it'll be on the table at the next meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Any other comments from the sponsors? Comments from the public? Any comments from the public? Comments from the council?
Motion to approve.
Councilman Dabney.
Yeah, just real quick, Chief Corley, when you were talking, you said this with the new increases that were provided by the council here. You said you have people coming back. Yeah, please. People that have left the departments and now are coming back. And I was just asking a question, will they come back at their same rank, or how will they be handled?
Yeah, so we actually have one officer who recently just left us in November. He will be one of the ones sworn in as a lateral transfer. So he won't come back. He was just a patrolman when he left. He won't come at a certain rank, but with the lateral transfer, he will have he'll get his time, just not seniority. So his PE number was, say it was 299 when he left. Now it's going to be like 346, 47. So in seniority, he'll lose seniority, but he doesn't lose his time. So him, and then we had a couple of other officers who have been quiet. They're still on the fence, but I think, like I say, the salary is one thing that has allowed us to talk to them and talk to them about coming back to Michigan City, and a couple of other lateral transfers we're trying to talk to. It's a better recruiting tool for us, just individually, outside of whatever marketing company we use or whatever other tactics we use. Just when you start talking money, I mean, that really gets people's attention. And especially when that was, somewhat of a factor at times of looking other places. So, like I said, we for sure have one coming back. He's committed. He's locked in. He'll be sworn in. And we have a couple of other we've been talking to. And it's been a great recruiting tool for just not only to put it out on paper, but ourselves going out and
Retention.
And then also retention too. Yes, sir.
Will there be any retraining involved in the lateral?
So the one lateral is coming back. He pretty much, like I say, he's been patrolling where he's at before. So there will be he'll spend a little bit of time with our training, but I mean, he probably could. He's not been separated from us long enough for him to really to have be retrained for a long period of time. saying it might be some little refresher, a couple of days, but I mean, he'd be ready to go real quick. And so that's another body that, you know, we'll have in the numbers that'll be on patrol immediately.
Councilwoman Tillman.
I just have one small little request. Could, in that interview process, when you're doing your recruiting, and I know you mentioned, you know, because of the salary and everyone is looking at the salary, just the dollar amount of that salary. If you could put that emphasis that they should also be looking at the full package of the benefits. And we have one of the best benefit packages in the area. And even though they're coming in young, but longevity, they need to be looking at that so that they can have a strong foundation when it's time for them to retire.
Yes, I mean, I failed to say that when I was talking about the salary part, but you're correct, the benefit package is, and so as we talk about salary and you start putting the benefit package with that, that's really what makes it a whole package to when we recruit and talk to some of the officers that are coming back and some that we're trying to attract. So you're correct. And I failed to say that, but the whole package is part of that salary piece also that I think is important and is helping us, you know, retain and recruit officers.
Yeah, well, and in part to what Councilwoman Tillman is saying, Mishawaka doesn't even pay longevity.
Correct. And the longevity is very important in that package.
Yeah, they don't even pay longevity.
I think there's not too many departments that are doing the longevity like we're doing it here in Michigan City. So
right.
Again, that becomes very important when you add the extra monies onto the salary.
Yep.
All right, thank you, Chief.
So, thank you.
Any other comments from the council? Councilman Mack.
Just a quick comment that I agree with all of these salary raises. We've done police, fire, city employees. To me, it's just a philosophy. It was an easy slam dunk, especially with the ARP money, of what we should do when we heard of how far behind we've let salaries slip for people competitively just in our 30-mile radius, 40-mile radius, what we've done over the last yada, yada years. And it's just a simple logic for me of an investment in cash long-term in order to retain, improve, and develop the people with certain skills. Now, the sooner we put that, and we can't do it here as a council, but as soon as that same exact logic gets applied to teachers and gets applied to how we want to improve the people in our community and our youth, it's the exact same logic all around. You know, you get what you pay for, you get what you invest in, and you can't go on the cheap for decades and decades and have expectations. So it was an easy decision for me, and I'm glad we did it, and I'm glad the negotiation worked out for everybody. But we've got to do better in those other areas as a country and as a state and as a city.
Thank you, Councilman. Any other comments from the council?
Make a motion to adopt.
Second.
We have a motion by Councilman Paul Prespolinski to adopt, and second by Councilman Don Prespolinski. Ms. Nyla, on the vote, please.
Ms. Jacobs?
Aye.
Mr. Paul Prespolinski?
Aye.
Ms. Tillman?
Aye.
Mr. Dabney?
Aye.
Mr. Fitzpatrick?
Aye.
Mr. Mayor?
Aye.
Mr. Don Prespolinski?
Aye.
And Mr. Simmons?
Aye.
We have 8 in favor and no one opposed.
Congratulations. Ms. Nyla, can you please read our next ordinance on second reading by title only?
An ordinance on second reading by title only, amending ordinance number 4650, commonly known as a 2023 salary ordinance, to provide the police chiefs and the fire chiefs for the same one-time bonus in 2023 as their respective union. And this is introduced by Mr. Fitzpatrick and Mr. Paul Prespolinski.
Any comments from the sponsors? Councilman Prespolinski.
I just want to say that I guess it's all fair and just trying to treat people with fairness. So I'm looking forward to getting the chiefs to really go out there and recruit and bring our, especially the police department, to bring our numbers up. And I like to hear that we're having lateral transfers that were already here and coming back. I think that in the long term, we need people that want to stay here and work here because as Councilwoman Tillman talked about our benefit package, and I just want to let people know that I was really pushed that 25-year longevity because we were I think the second department in the second or third municipality to do that. And I got to tell you that I believe that being a policeman, being a fireman is not an easy profession, and especially in today's marketplace. And I hope that when people come here, that they're happy and that as a unit, as a cohesive unit, that we take this city back. That's what I'm looking for. I'm tired of the trouble out in the community and under council comments. I'll allude to some of that situation that happened to me about a month ago. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Any other comments from the sponsors? Comments from the public? Any comments from the public? Comments from the council?
Yeah, Mr. President, I'd like to have third reading on this tonight also.
Second.
We have a motion to have third reading by Councilman Don Prespolinski and second by Councilman Paul Prespolinski. Ms. Nyla, on the vote, please.
Mr. Paul Prespolinski,
Aye.
Ms. Tillman,
Aye.
Mr. Dabney,
Aye.
Mr. Fitzpatrick,
Aye.
Mr. Matt,
Aye.
Mr. Don Prespolinski,
Aye.
Mr. Simmons,
Aye.
and Ms. Jagus. Aye. We have 8 in favor and no one opposed.
Thank you, Ms. Nyla. Any other comments from the council?
An ordinance. Did you say for me to be?
I said any other comments from the council?
I'm ahead of myself, right?
Ms. Nyla, can you please read this ordinance on third reading?
An ordinance on third reading by title only, amending ordinance number 4650, commonly known as the 2023 salary ordinance to provide the police chiefs and the fire chiefs with the same one-time bonus in the 2023 as their respective union. And this is introduced by Mr. Fitzpatrick and Mr. Paul Prespolinski.
Any comments from the sponsors? Any comments from the public?
Yeah, Tommy Kolovic, 1316 Ohio Street. I just want to congratulate the council and all the respective police and fire unions for getting all this hammered out. And I'm going to need a new contract with the revised wage scale for my next meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kolovic. Any other comments from the public? Comments from the council?
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion to approve by Councilman Don Prespolinski and second by Councilman Paul Prespolinski. Ms. Nyla, on the vote, please.
Ms. Tillman. Aye. Mr. Dabney.
Aye.
Mr. Fitzpatrick.
Aye.
Mr. Matt.
Aye.
Mr. Don Prespolinski.
Aye.
Mr. Simmons.
Aye.
Ms. Jagus. Aye. And Mr. Paul Prespolinski.
Aye.
We have 8 in favor and no one opposed.
Congratulations. Ms. Nyla, can you please read our next ordinance on second reading by title only?
An ordinance on second reading by title only, amending ordinance number 4650, commonly known as the 2023 salary ordinance to create the position of part-time animal control officers. And this is introduced by Mr. Don Prespolinski, Ms. Deitch, and Mr. Paul Prespolinski.
Are there any comments from the sponsors?
Just for the public's knowledge and for the council, Chief Cooney was here at the last meeting, but the Animal Control Department is in dire need of assistance, of help. The director, Jackie, I know that I saw her today in City Hall, and she had slipped, I don't know, let's just say a month ago, and broke her ankle at the dog kennel. She slipped on a wet floor, twisted her ankle, foot back underneath her leg, and she's had pins put in her foot. So she's been out of work for a month, and she has to go back to the doctor in another month. So she's out of commission, and hard to tell what's going to happen after she goes to the doctor in another month. hopefully she'll be coming back to work. But in the meantime, I believe they have one part-time and one full-time. And the other folks that are being used, I know there's a group of volunteers. And I also believe that Chief Cooney said that they use some police officers on overtime at the kennel. So with that being explained, and we're looking at paying these folks $18 an hour as a part-time, on a part-time as needed basis, that we should move forward on this ordinance. And those are my only comments.
Thank you, Councilman. Any other comments from the sponsor? Comments from the public? Any comments from the public? Comments from the council?
Mr. President, I'd also like to have third reading on this tonight.
Second.
We have a motion by Councilman Don Prespolinski to have third reading, and second by Councilman Paul Prespolinski. Ms. Nyla, on the vote, please.
Mr. Dabney,
Aye.
Mr. Fitzpatrick,
Aye.
Mr. Matt,
Aye.
Mr. Don Prespolinski,
Aye.
Mr. Simmons,
Aye.
Ms. Jagus,
Aye.
Mr. Paul Prespolinski,
Aye.
and Ms. Tillman.
Aye.
We have 8 in favor and no one opposed.
Thank you, Ms. Nyla. Any other comments from the council? Okay, Ms. Nyla, can you please read this ordinance on third reading?
An ordinance on third reading by title only, amending ordinance number 4650, commonly known as the 2023 salary ordinance, to create the position of part-time animal control officers. And this is introduced by Mr. Don Prespolinski, Ms. Deitch, and Mr. Paul Prespolinski.
Thank you, Ms. Nyla. Any comments from the sponsors? Any comments from the public? Any comments from the council?
Motion to approve.
We have a motion to approve by Councilman Don Prespolinski and second by Councilman Paul Prespolinski. Ms. Nyla, on the vote, please.
Mr. Fitzpatrick.
Aye.
Mr. Matt.
Aye.
Mr. Don Prespolinski.
Aye.
Mr. Simmons.
Aye.
Ms. Jagus.
Aye.
Mr. Paul Prespolinski.
Aye.
Ms. Tillman.
Aye.
And Mr. Dabney.
Aye.
We have 8 in favor and no one opposed.
Thank you, Ms. Nyla. Congratulations. If you heard our next ordinance by title only.
An ordinance on second reading by title only, approving additional appropriation in the budget of the Maintenance Department of the Park and Recreation Fund for replacement of fencing at Patriot Park. And this is introduced by Mr. Dabney.
Any comments from the sponsor?
None at this time.
Any comments from the public? Any comments from the public? Comments from the council?
Yeah, Mr. President, I wish to have third reading on this also.
Support. Oh, and this is our formal public hearing.
Yeah.
We need to go back.
Let me take that motion back.
Yeah, or
Okay.
we'll pause it. So this is our formal public hearing. So are there any comments from the public? Any comments from the public? Any comments from the public? Public comment is closed. Okay, we have a motion on the floor to have third reading on this ordinance by Councilman Don Prespolinski and second by Councilman Brian Dabney. Ms. Nyla, on the vote, please.
Mr. Matt.
Aye.
Mr. Don Prespolinski.
Aye.
Mr. Simmons.
Aye.
Ms. Jagus.
Aye.
Mr. Paul Prespolinski.
Aye.
Ms. Tillman.
Aye.
Mr. Dabney.
Aye.
And Mr. Fitzpatrick.
Aye.
We have 8 in favor and no one opposed.
Any other comments from the council? Ms. Nyla, can you please read this ordinance on third reading?
An ordinance on third reading by title only, approving additional appropriation in the budget of the Maintenance Department of the Park and Recreation Fund for replacements of fencing at Patriot Park. And this is introduced by Mr. Dabney.
Any comments from the sponsor?
None.
Any comments from the public? Any comments from the council?
Motion to approve.
We have a motion to approve by Councilman Don Prespolinski and second by Councilman Dabney. Ms. Nyla, on the vote, please.
Mr. Don Prespolinski.
Aye.
Mr. Simmons.
Aye.
Ms. Jagus.
Aye.
Mr. Paul Prespolinski.
Aye.
Ms. Tillman.
Aye.
Mr. Dabney.
Aye.
Mr. Fitzpatrick.
Aye.
And Mr. Mack.
Aye.
We have 8 in favor and no one opposed.
Thank you, Ms. Nyla. Please read our next ordinance, second reading by title only, please.
An ordinance on second reading by title only, approving additional appropriation in the budget of the Maintenance Department of the Park and Recreation Fund for repairs at Sunset Grill. And this is also introduced by Mr. Dabney.
This will also be our formal public hearing. Any comments from the sponsor?
None at this time.
Any comments from the public? Any comments from the public? Any comments from the public? Public comment is now closed. Ms. Nyla, I'm sorry, comments from the council.
He's gonna have
Councilman
me.
Dabney,
Yeah, I'd like to make the motion that we waive rules and have second and third hearing tonight.
we have a motion to have third reading on this ordinance.
Second.
Second by Councilman Simmons. Ms. Nyla, on the vote, please.
Mr. Simmons,
Aye.
Ms. Jigus,
Aye.
Mr. Paul Prespolinski,
Aye.
Ms. Tillman,
Aye.
Mr. Dabney,
Aye.
Mr. Fitzpatrick,
Aye.
Mr. Matt,
Aye.
and Mr. Don Prespolinski.
Aye.
We have 8 in favor and 2 opposed.
Thank you, Ms. Nyla. Any other comments from the council? Having none, Ms. Nyla, could you please read this ordinance on third reading?
An ordinance on third reading by title only, approving additional appropriation in the budget of the Maintenance Department of the Park and Recreation and Fund for repairs of Sunset Grill. And this is introduced by Mr. Dabney.
Any comments from the sponsor?
None.
Any comments from the public? Any comments from the public? Any comments from the council?
Motion to approve.
Second.
I have a motion to approve by Councilman Dabney and second by Councilman Don Prespolinski. Ms. Nyla, on the vote, please.
Ms. Jigus,
Aye.
Mr. Paul Prespolinski,
Aye.
Ms. Tillman,
Aye.
Mr. Dabney,
Aye.
Mr. Fitzpatrick,
Aye.
Mr. Matt,
Aye.
Mr. Don Prespolinski,
Aye.
Mr. Simmons.
Aye.
We have 8 in favor and no one opposed.
Thank you, Ms. Nyla. Can you please read our first ordinance on third reading by title only?
An ordinance on third reading by title only, creating Article 10 in Chapter 22 entitled Rental Inspection Program, and this is introduced by Ms. Jigus.
Any comments from the sponsor?
Yes, so we've been working on this ordinance for a pretty long time, and just recently, code enforcement and other entities have come in with additional factors for this ordinance and additional changes and modifications. And I would like to ask the council for 2 things: to apply for third reading, amendments on third reading. And also I plan to table this till July 5th, because we are going to have another public meeting due to these new factors that are coming in and some new aspects of it that I'm not free to talk about right now, but we have to work on.
What was the first motion?
So I'd like to ask to do amendments on third reading, which will not be today, but hopefully not.
Those men have the asked at the second reading.
Right. So the motion was to waive the rules and have amendments on third reading.
Well, by all means, that should have been done on the second reading according to the rules. So you want to waive the rules? Is that what you're asking?
That was the motion.
I didn't.
Is there a second?
Support.
We have a second by Councilman Dabney. Ms. Nyla, on the vote, please.
Okay, so this is to be able to
To-
have
To allow,
amendments on
to
third
suspend the
reading.
rules and allow amendments.
Yeah.
Okay. Mr. Paul Prespolinski,
Nay.
Ms. Tillman,
Nay.
Mr. Dabney,
Aye.
Mr. Fitzpatrick,
Nay.
Mr. Mack,
Aye.
Mr. Don Prespolinski,
Aye.
Mr. Simmons,
Aye.
Ms. Jigus,
Aye.
and Ms. Tillman.
Somebody
Yeah.
Teresa Stillman.
Gonna do it
Just
twice.
want to vote twice.
Nay.
The count, but.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We have 5 in favor and 3 opposed. No Angie.
Okay, so we
We
reading the
can't-
amendments as presented.
We can't have third. Okay,
So no, this is for the amendments.
right.
Amendment.
We can have amendments on third reading in July. What'd she say, July?
We have a
Well, motion to table till July 5th.
That's your next one, right?
So are we reading the amendments?
We're gonna have amendments on the third reading.
So what you, just to
Okay, yeah,
clarify, what you
gotcha.
just did was a
Okay.
motion under 251 to suspend the rules and permit amendments that haven't been made yet.
Okay.
So now she is moving to table
Okay.
in order to be able to discuss the amendments on third reading.
Gotcha. Thank you.
And we're already at third reading, so we don't need to move it ahead to third reading. That's
Correct.
That's the other part.
So is there a second? Support. So we have a motion by Councilman Rodriguez and second by Councilman Simmons. Ms. Knight, want to vote, please?
Okay,
To
Ms.
table.
Tillman,
Table.
to
Nay.
table it till July 5th.
Right.
Nay? Okay. Mr. Dabney,
Aye.
Mr. Fitzpatrick,
Nay.
Mr. Mack,
Aye.
Mr. Don Prespolinski,
Aye.
Mr. Simmons,
Aye.
Ms. Jagus,
Aye.
and Mr. Paul Prespolinski.
Nay.
Okay, so we have 5 in favor and 3 opposed. So we can
Okay.
have
So
it on
ordinance will
July.
be tabled
We're tabling it till July 5th.
till July 5th. Thank you, Ms. Knight. Please read our next ordinance on third reading by title only.
I'd like to take a 5-minute recess, please.
And we'd like to take a 5-minute recess. Okay, we're gonna get started back up here.
Well, those are nice, Sharon. Here we go with the amendment. Where's Paul?
No, it's still on.
Okay, Ms. Nyla, can you please read this next ordinance on third reading by title only?
An ordinance on third reading by title only, an ordinance establishing a fund for specific maintenance and repair of brick streets within the city of Michigan City, Indiana. And this is introduced by Paul Prespolinski.
Are there any comments from the sponsor?
Where's the sponsor at?
En route.
Yeah.
Comments from the sponsor?
There's a lot of discussion points out there. Well, thank you. Introduce this ordinance so that we can create a fund and have money available to do Brick Street repair. The reason being is that since the original ordinance that was authored by I believe it was Mrs. Baker, Evelyn Baker, and then when I was on the city council back in the 90s, it was amended to put a little bit more language in there. And I believe that $250 is a equitable amount. And when you're talking about repair of the streets, is that there's a lot of the streets that need partial repairs, where they have a section in their street that needs to be repaired, and we need to do that instead of ruining the whole street. Since they are protected, these streets are protected by ordinance. And there's also language in the ordinance that talks about how they are supposed to be, if they're uncovered, if there's any work done on the street, that any bricks that are brought up are supposed to be turned back over to the city. Also, the way that this is worded with the amendment, that on the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I think it's the 8th whereas, that it says funded annually with and up to is stricken so that it's a 250 amount, and that this fund will have no influence and no detriment to the motor vehicle highway fund, the 750,000 that we get every year, or whatever it might be, that this will be a separate fund on its own that can be used in conjunction with the CC funding. The city engineer told me that the brick streets qualify for that money and that it can be used as a joint venture with a grant money from the state. So I really think that this is a good thing for the city in the character and historical nature of the second ward, because most of the streets are in the second ward, and that A Street, which is in the north of the tracks, and the area around the Zorn Brewery was also rebuilt many years ago. And the, not Esplanade, but the egresses and ingresses of many alleyways were reconstructed using pavers, because they're originally pavers. And there are a lot of them all over the city of Michigan City. They rebuilt a lot of them in the historical district downtown. So I don't think it's, we're at the point right now where we're playing catch up. York Street is in major need of repair, and a lot of the intersections and the sides of the street need to be stabilized, and then they can be, a lot of parking areas can be paved in there. There's an example that Boyd Phillips actually did the south block right off of 11th Street as an example of how he wanted to reconstruct that street when Boyd Phillips was our engineer. And Boyd Phillips also brought a specialist to Michigan City out of Iowa to help him create a maintenance manual for these streets. And when I was elected, the first thing I did, I went to the planning department looking for that manual, and it was nowhere to be found. And it still hasn't been produced. And that's a darn shame, because Boyd Phillips, who was city engineer at the time, he put a lot of his knowledge and love for the city of Michigan City, and is being a professional engineer. I was telling somebody today, we had a very good relationship on talking about construction of the streets, and he got very, very into the nature when the streets were put in, how long their wear pattern is. A lot of these streets are reaching 100 years old. A lot of them. So I think it's a well worth investment to keep the texture, the historical character of our neighborhoods. So that's really it really all together. And I don't think that 250 is a bad number or an exorbitant amount of money, because let's realize how many years that it wasn't funded. It was not funded. I believe the original ordinance was passed in 2005, the amended version, when it, if you read in the third whereas, that the city code was changed to establish a public hearing for any purpose construction along the design of preserved streets. Well, let's say this is that I don't believe that that has happened with concerning the double track system. And what's concerning to me is that if you have an ordinance that people need to follow it. It was put in there for a purpose. All right. And I live on a brick street, and I believe that also it helps to slow down traffic in the neighborhoods. It does. So with that being said, I'll whatever comments you want to make or questions you have for me. Oh, and one other thing, that when I originally did this in 2005, I did an inventory measuring the streets and how many linear feet there was. And I did that with my daughter as a Girl Scout project. And it was amazing. We did that, and we made a picture catalog of it, and we cataloged the streets that needed repair. And actually, York Street was one of the streets that we targeted, and it's still in disrepair, and it needs to be fixed, you know. And if you go there when it rains, that at the bottom of the hill and a couple of them intersections, the water just sits there for days. So that, you know, we're lucky that there's not a lot of truck traffic on that street, because it would definitely undermine that street, and it needs to be taken care of. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Any comments from the public? Any comments from the public? Comments from the council? Councilman Dabney.
Yeah, I'm looking at because one of the amendments here, the permanent brick street repair fund shall be utilized only for the repair and maintenance of brick streets which are not physically situated within the boundaries of a TIF district. And I'm looking at York Street coming off of 8th, coming all the way down to 11th. I'm trying to picture in my mind, are there those brick streets in there? Because this is saying because that's in the TIF, that's in the North TIF, which means those would not be able to, this money would not be able to.
Excuse me.
Okay.
What are you exactly looking at?
The North TIF map.
Yeah, but what part of that ordinance are you looking at?
We were handed the brick street repair. This was handed out to us tonight.
I don't have anything about anything TIF language in it.
Point of order. Were these amendments by substitution? There was no motion to amend, so why are we discussing amendments?
Yeah, I made a motion to amend on third reading last meeting.
Right.
There's no motion to amend.
Need to make a
You need to make a motion to amend by substitution at this meeting.
Okay.
And that would, so
Okay.
It wouldn't have been. We weren't discussing the amendments until the motion was made to amend, so it's still the right version.
okay, so after the amendment, I'm going to ask about York Street.
If there's an amendment.
I'm gonna amend by substitution.
So there's a motion to amend by substitution by Councilman Prespolinski. There's a second.
Second.
We have a second by Councilman Don Prespolinski. Ms. Nyla, on the vote, please.
Amendment. All of them.
Mr. Dabney,
We're taking all of these amendments at one. And it has to be nay.
okay, so for both, you're taking it for both? I'm confused.
There
were amendments that were proposed at the last meeting for second reading.
But there wasn't a
Then-
motion.
Yes, there was.
There's a motion.
And now there are motions to amend by substitution again on third reading. So I think what Councilman Dabney is suggesting is that all of the amendments are now incorporated in the draft that is currently in front of the council today. So if you have a red line version, it's all the redlining, which is consistent with what I sent you.
Blue.
The blue lining, I'm sorry.
Blueprint.
The
Yeah.
blue copy is the copy that we're looking at.
So there's a motion and a second.
To make these amendments that are in blue.
I know.
Ms. Nyla on the vote, please.
So we're amending it to do this one, correct?
Correct.
All right. Mr. Dabney,
Nay.
Mr. Fitzpatrick,
Aye.
Mr. Mack,
Nay.
Mr. Don Prespolinski,
Aye.
Mr. Simmons,
Aye.
Ms. Jagus. Nay. Mr. Paul Prespolinski,
Aye.
and Ms. Tillman.
Aye.
We have 5 in favor and 3 opposed.
Okay, the amendments passed.
Mr. President,
Councilwoman Tillman.
even though that the motion passed for these amendments, I just wanted, just for the record, just to point out in this amendment, unless I'm overlooking it, this particular ordinance didn't mention the TIF. It's the next following ordinance.
Yeah. Sure it doesn't. So,
Yeah,
it does. Number 3.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman.
Okay.
Any comments from the public?
Oh.
Comments from the public? Any comments from the council?
Just one comment, couple comments about Brick Streets. I understand what Councilman Paul Prespolinski's doing here is, for example, in talking to Jeff Wright, you know, we did get 1 block of York Street done when the new administration came in. Talking to Mr. Wright, the cost of redoing a whole street like that York Street was done between Barker and Homer was approximately $250,000. But there was also sewer work done there too. So, you know, moving down the line, York Street needs a lot of work. But I will say this about brick streets. And brick streets have been in Michigan City. You know, you take Ripley Street, you take Ann Street, you take Charles Street. Those streets, I can testify that those streets are over 70 years old right now. They used to be my neighborhood, okay? So now I live on Gardena Street. That street was blacktop, I don't know, maybe 10 years ago, 11 years ago. Tilden Ave was blacktop. 10, 11 years ago. You go take a look at them now. There are more cracks in those streets, and they're starting to get, you know, in bad shape that, you know, probably within another 5 years, they'll have to be blacktop. My point is, brick streets last forever. We get this money in an account up to $1 million. It stops there, and then we have money to repair these streets, and we keep those streets intact. And, you know, we'll be able to use our other blacktopping and road repair funds on the blacktop, the Gardena streets, the Tilden Aves, the Cool Spring Aves, Franklin Street, Michigan Boulevard. I mean, Michigan Boulevard is starting to turn into a bad situation. I don't know what the plan is, but anyway, that's my point. I mean, it's well needed. We got to put some money aside to keep those streets in shape also. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Any other comments from the council?
I get my way.
Yeah.
Councilwoman Jigs.
Thank you. I have no problem with brick streets. That I think they're great. They're wonderful. They last forever. All that's true. I have a problem with excluding the TIF districts because right now, you know, the York Street right in front of the Zorn Brewery is no longer going to be available. So just like for an example. So all of this entire place can't get any brick streets repaired because what? And redevelopment money is for redevelopment and it's not for repairing brick streets. And I'm opposed to just that part of it, the TIF district exclusion. Otherwise, I would have been for it. Thank you.
Any other comments? Thank you, Councilwoman. Any other comments from the council?
Yeah.
Councilman Dabney?
Yeah, and that's the same issue I have with it. That is excluding the brick streets on York. And does that also include those crossings right there coming down 8th as well? Because those are in the TIF district as well. So we're excluding those to be able to use these funds for repair to those brick streets. And as Councilwoman Jiga said, I just disagree with that we're excluding. Basically, we'd be forcing the redevelopment commission to redo these brick streets because we're not going to do it with these funds. That's what that amendment 3 is telling me. And I just can't go with that.
Thank you, Councilman.
And
Any other comments from the council?
yes,
Councilman Mack?
I'd also like to commend the councilman for putting this out there because I do agree with paving streets, but the manner in which we do it and the way we lock things into it, I've said it before, it's kind of like cars and concrete or people in programming. Everything we did for police, fire, people, that's people in programming, developing your people. And like the government does, federal government, their budgets lock in protections to Medicaid, Social Security, and everything else has to be argued upon individually on its own merits at the time that is needed to do it. When you take a budget and you lock in concretes and sidewalks first, everything else has to be argued and debated. And I just don't believe that in this day and age that each one of the streets, and we're paying full price. It's not like when we do the other streets on the Payzer rating schedule, we get a 50-50 match. We're speaking of locking in full price, Tone and Blank, or whoever we hire to do it, full price, and locking it in as a priority over other things. And that, on its own merit, I would probably vote for this street at this time and this street for that time. But to lock in streets and sidewalks as a priority, that's philosophically, I just can't go with that.
Thank you, Councilman. Any other comments from the council? Councilman President.
I'm going to try to answer some of these discrepancies, and here's what I will have to say is that the brick streets have paid for themselves, and that it's long overdue. So you can, if you want to use that as an argument, is that the TIF district operates as it does and has done work outside of the TIF district all along its whole career. And I'm going to tell you this right now, then you're telling me that $8-10 million tunnel to nowhere that's sitting in Lafayette Street, they should have never done. Is that what you're telling me? Because that's not in the TIF district. All right. So that's the point. That's the point that I'm trying to make here, that they have money in the TIF to do reconstruction. All right. Not maintenance, because that's what we got into the discussion before. Not maintenance, reconstruction. And I will say that York Street, south or north, was done by the TIF district. They rebuilt that whole intersection, and it was done when Minister Boyd Phelps was here, and it was constructed at a better construction method than the other streets that are out there. So that is a false narrative that you're projecting, in that these streets can qualify and do qualify by a professional engineer telling me that they qualify for matching funds. All right. Or they can just use this money. But the whole premise is this. My premise with this ordinance is so that money isn't taken away from the MVH fund or the CC match so that this works on its own and that there's a process. So you do the streets, the funding mechanism is there. So let's be naysayers and let's not fund this. It was not funded in 2005, which it should have been. And just remember that when we came into office, how depleted the Riverboat Fund was. I'm not asking to deplete it. I'm asking to put money on the side to get this work done, to enhance a neighborhood, to bring that, you know, more or less, let's make lemonade out of lemons. And, you know, you want to be against it? I think it's something that's well worth the investment in our community. Thank you. And I think that the point I want to make, why that language is in there, what happened to that $100,000 this year that was in the sidewalk fund? Oh, that's right. They're using it on the North End project. They're using it in the TIF district. So the point is mute, that talking about being in the TIF. The language is in there so they use the TIF money in the correct area. I'm not asking them to come in on York Street and do the whole York Street and say, oh, well, we're going to do sewer work over there. I want something that's going to stand on its own, that when they do the sewer work, the money is available so they can rebuild the intersections that they're going to have to go through, you know, in long-term planning. So with that being said, I think that the TIF has a lot of money and they can do their own work and they can fund their own projects. And I think it's despicable what they did this year on taking that $100,000 and using it on the reconstruction of Franklin Street. And that's what they did. And, you know, you guys weren't at the Board of Works meeting, and I proved it in the budget book where they were taking the money out on the code, on the fund. So what's the purpose of having something if people, that's why the language is there. So shenanigans aren't pulled in the future. Thank you.
Make the motion for the dot. Are we still on council? Any other comments from the council? We have a motion to approve by Councilman Paul Preselinski. There a second?
Second.
We have a motion to approve by Councilman Paul Preselinski and second by Councilman Don Preselinski. Ms. Nyla, on the vote, please.
Mr. Fitzpatrick?
Aye.
Mr. Mack?
Nay.
Mr. Don Prespolinski?
Aye.
Mr. Simmons?
Aye.
Ms. Jigus? Nay. Mr. Paul Prespolinski?
Aye.
Ms. Tillman?
Aye.
And Mr. Dabney?
Nay.
We have 5 in favor and 3 opposed.
All right, ordinance passes. Ms. Nyla, please read our next ordinance on third reading by title only.
An ordinance on third reading by title only, an ordinance creating a permanent sidewalk fund for sidewalk repairs for the city of Michigan City, Indiana. And this is introduced by Mr. Paul Prespolinski, Ms. Tillman, Ms. Angie Deitch, Mr. Fitzpatrick, and Mr. Don Prespolinski.
Any comments from the sponsor? Thank you, Ms. Nyla.
You got a copy of
Any
that?
comments from the sponsor?
Yeah.
Councilman
Yes.
Preselinski.
I wanted to make a point on this. Now therefore be it ordained that, I up the amount to $200,000 after the meeting last week, and comments that were made that we could probably use more money in that, and which we could because we didn't fund it for a couple years in this administration, and this year we're using that money on the North End reconstruction of Franklin Street. So I think it behooves us to get that money in a permanent fund so people can at least turn repair list in, and that the listing, and also there's an amendment to it that says the sidewalks that are slated for repair shall be maintained in order of relative priority for repairs. An updated copy of said listing shall be maintained by the city planner, the city engineer, and made available in the city clerk's office. So that way we know whatever list that you turn in as a council member, that it'll be on record. And if something doesn't get done, you can ask the question why it wasn't done.
Thank you, Councilman. Any other comments from the sponsors? Any comments from the public?
I gotta make
We
a
do that,
motion
Mr.
to
Yeah,
amend.
do you have an
I'm
amendment?
sorry. I apologize for that. I'd like to make the motion to amend on third.
You guys are practicing law.
Support.
Thank you.
But it's his job to amend if he wants to or not. We have a motion to amend by Councilman Prespolinski. Is there a second?
Support.
Second by Councilwoman Tillman. Ms. Nyla, on the vote, please.
Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Matt,
Nay.
Mr. Don Prespolinski,
Aye.
Mr. Simmons,
Aye.
Ms. Jigus. Aye. Mr. Paul Prespolinski,
Aye.
Ms. Tillman,
Aye.
Mr. Dabney,
Nay.
and Mr. Fitzpatrick.
Aye.
We have 6 in favor and 2 opposed.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Nyla. So is there any comments from the public on the amended version? Any comments from the public? Comments from the council?
Yeah, Mr. President.
Councilman Prespolinski?
Yeah, I think I was the one that made a comment at the last council meeting as far as the amount of work that needs to be done on the sidewalks that are in now. And I'm also talking about sidewalks that need to be installed on streets in Michigan City. Take, for example, you go from Wabash Street down to Jules, or not Jules, but Al's, okay, on Long Wabash Street there. I mean, there's no sidewalks there. Ohio Street, you go from Village Green down to St. John's Road, you know, there's no sidewalks there. People are walking out in the street. You know, one thing is to get the sidewalks under control. The other thing is to put sidewalks where they're needed at to get them installed. And I guess the one thing that I really have heartburn with, and a big heartburn with it, is that, and according to, because I didn't go to the last Board of Works meeting, and I know that they're doing this project downtown with, you know, the parking and the ADA accessible or ADA bubble pad corners, which the downtown area has never had. And I brought that up, and that's going to be done now so that we're ADA compliant. But taking that $100,000 out of the neighborhood sidewalk fund to repair sidewalks out in the neighborhoods that we've been waiting for 3 years now, because I turned my list in to Mr. Wright when he was the city engineer, and now my list is sitting somewhere in a cabinet here in City Hall, and the people that live along Gardena Street, the people that live along Greenwood Ave, and other neighborhoods that called me to get their sidewalks done, they're not going to get their sidewalks done for another year. Because the money from the TIF district could have been used to do that work. Now the other people, this is like reverse, I don't know, not discrimination, but it's kind of like reverse. They're taking the money that was put aside for 100,000 in the budget for sidewalks in the neighborhoods. Now we're bringing it downtown when the downtown has TIF money that could have been used. To me, that is unexcusable management, and it's a slap in the face to the council people that went out, walked in those neighborhoods, took notes, gave them to Mr. Wright, and I did. I'm smart enough because I know how things go. I kept a copy for myself, so I have that. But I don't know if he's got a copy of it. So the work's not getting done for another year. So to me, that is not good public service, good response to the neighborhoods. And it's all about taking care of the downtown area where they have a lot of TIF money that they could have been using on that project. Totally unacceptable and unacceptable by the administration to do something like that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilman Dabney.
Yeah, and I understand the frustration of not getting your sidewalks done, but looking at this ordinance here, once again, it's excluding all of these sidewalks that are in the TIF district. And just for public consumption, I'll just name off a couple of them. 4th Street from the Boulevard to Wabash, 5th Street from the Boulevard to Wabash, 6th Street from the Boulevard to Wabash, 7th from the Boulevard to Wabash, 8th from the Boulevard to Wabash, and even crossing over the Boulevard as well. And then we got 9th, 10th, and 11th, and those even stretch all the way over to Huron Street. So we're saying we can't use any of these funds to do any of those streets because they're in the TIF. That would also include over in the Canada area, that'd be Cook Street, that'd be Union Street, that'd be Emily. And then, Holiday coming from Vail to the Boulevard where it has the turn around the corner there. So this is quite a bit of streets that are being excluded that are in that ward. We were saying that the TIF should be the ones to repair that. We can't use these funds for sidewalks in those areas. So that is a huge chunk of the current first ward at this time that, are being excluded. And there's the TIF map here from the south TIF as well, but I can't see the streets. They're not labeled as well, but there's a bunch of streets out there as well that are eliminated from being able to use these funds for sidewalks. And that's the only thing I don't agree with us not funding it. I agree with us funding it. I don't agree with, I disagree with that, but we're excluding all of these streets from this money. So we're basically trying to force the redevelopment commission to use TIF funds to do sidewalks for all of these different streets. I think we could do that if we were to go to them and work and partner with them and ask them to do some things. I think it'd be a lot better than passing an ordinance, forcing them and saying the only way to improve those sidewalks would be, for you guys to do it. I think, if we work together and ask them to do some things, it'd be a lot better than passing an ordinance where we're forcing them. But there's a lot of streets that are being excluded. A lot of sidewalks and streets. I just can't agree with that. That's all. But having this fund do sidewalks is a great idea, but I don't think we should be excluding these streets because they're in the TIF, these sidewalks rather, because they're in the TIF.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilwoman Tillman.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just wanted to make a comment in regards to this ordinance, and that is being of the 5th ward, and I'm speaking for my ward, the 5th ward, and my constituents. I, as well as Councilman Don Prisbalinski, I also turned in a list and went to residents, walked the sidewalks, took pictures, and turned all of these in. And they are yet to be done. Hendrick Street, horrible. Sidewalks, horrible. You can't even pass down. It's a one-way. Carroll, horrible. Michigan Boulevard in itself needs to be repaved. We're looking at a history of it meets the PACER, but as far as funding and my understanding of TIF economic development, Well, the double tracks of 11th Street will justify utilizing the TIF funds to not pave, but to actually redo and hopefully do a new design on as far as having enough parking to put parking back for businesses along Michigan Boulevard. So the TIF funds, even though it's not, I don't believe it's forcing the redevelopment or the Board of Works to do anything, because they already know what the TIF funds are for. It's up to the council to make sure that they utilize these funds for the purposes that they're for. We know that this is not considered a maintenance work. This is repair work, and that's what TIF funds are for. And for those that's not within the TIF, not all of East Side is in the TIF. We stop at Zorn. We can't even say for someone's resident or senior citizens that may need a small repair on their sidewalk. It's the north side of Michigan Boulevard. We're not even in the UEZ. So for something like this and any additional fundings for the 5th Ward, that is why I'm in support of this ordinance.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Councilman Mack.
I too rode with Mr. Wright on the west side, a lot of streets, and all of it, like Councilman Prespolinski said, all of it is pretty much on hold in the can now. And I was really excited about getting it done. If you leave Michigan City on Highway 12, heading out, it's not even sidewalks there. I mean, they are so overgrown. You walk on the sidewalk, then the sidewalk turns into grass. It hasn't been done in 100 years. And so that's an exaggeration, but it's not even like anything on the boulevard or some other places where you got bumps and cracks on my sidewalk. I mean, you've got a sidewalk that is no longer a sidewalk. So the urgency of that topic, I mean, it's easy to be passionate about it, but the method in which it gets done is also a concern for me. I still have my cars, concrete, people programming logic that I don't believe locking in that as a priority for the next council, especially, as that will be your priority. And then how do you make decisions? I mean, if that street that I'm talking about, Highway 12 coming into Michigan City, where you've got sidewalk that turns into grass, is not priority number one, in which manner do we make those? I mean, is it going to be not attached to the PASER rating? Is it just us making our decisions? When we had Mr. Wright, we had an engineer that could kind of bring his personal gravitas or experience into it. We're going to just argue it and hand it off to one of the contractors. How do we make the decisions on which council gets what percentage of the money? And we're putting that on the future councils, because that's never been a manner in which we've operated since I've been here. So it just seems, I like the idea, but I'd almost rather have each individual item argued on its own merit at the time, as opposed to locking in a certain dollar amount that's prioritizing and taking away from everything, and then having the discussion.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilwoman Rodriguez.
Yes, I also agree that the only part about this I don't like is the TIF part. We need sidewalks. I've always said that, and it's really hard to implement because you have to pick and choose. But there has to be some kind of a plan and go forward. I just think that excluding such large areas of the city, hoping that redevelopment sees like a impetus to build sidewalks where there are none, I just don't think so. They're worried about redevelopment, about building things that are going to attract businesses and people to the city. I know sidewalks are important, but that's not going to be a priority item for them. And I'm sorry that they spent that $100,000. That seems really bad. But to punish the two TIF districts going forward, to say you're never getting sidewalks again from us, I don't like that part of it either. So that's the only part I'm against. So sorry.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Councilman Prespolinski.
Well, I listened to all your points, and the point being is why this legislation is here is because of exactly what happened this year, is that the money was taken out of the fund and used in the north end. they did not even make a commitment to do anything within the TIF district. And that is an economic stimulus that is they're supposed to do with their money. But here is the point. Where is their plan? The TIF district has been there for over 30 years. They have been ignoring the North End and not coming up with a plan. That TIF district has been there for over 30 years. Now, they put the deep tunnel on Lafayette Street, and they're not using it. $10 million, not using it. My whole thought process is to have a fund that is not taken away from the neighborhoods. They have plenty of money, and the point being, do they have a plan for the south side? Do they have a plan? Has anybody seen the plan? Do they have a plan for the North End? Has anybody seen the plan? The answer, no. All right. They're nickel and diming the city, or the neighborhoods for their I can't even find the words for it, because it's just, for me as living in a neighborhood, and from the very beginning had a problem with my sidewalk when I moved into my house, that it was made subgrade, got a letter from my insurance company saying that they're going to cancel my homeowner's insurance. I had to spend out about almost $2,000 because I had 100 feet one way and 100 feet another way. And then they came up with a program to do a 50-50 mix on replacing sidewalks, but then they increased the insurance coverage that small contractors, that they didn't even want to touch it because they had to have $1 million in insurance. So I don't even want to get into those points. But the things are that you mentioned about, where is the sidewalk out on Highway 421 South? Where is it? There's a TIF out there. Where is it? It's nowhere. There's no plan. We've been waiting on them to pave that one road for 3 years now. They haven't. You have to look at what they're doing. And there comes a time when you have to tell them they have to do something. Here's the plan. Here's our plan. We're directing you indirectly to use your funds in a proper manner in your TIF zones. They did Ohio Street, and I'm not begrudging anybody that lives on Ohio Street. Well, go out there and look how they made a hazard of the sidewalks. They indented the drains. So if you're walking down there at night, I'd hate to see somebody tripping that. To me, they didn't move the drains out to the edge of the sidewalks. Take a ride out there. But all that work, that was done by the TIF. And I'm not begrudging them anything. They did a lot of good work out there. But the main thing is this: they still didn't put a sidewalk on 421 on either side of the street. You know, I mean, you gotta take the bull by the horn once in a while. And we're not excluding anybody because they've been in a TIF for how long? They could have had a plan to do it. They don't. So I'll move for adoption. I'll make a motion for adoption.
Support.
We have a motion to approve by Councilman Prespolinski and second by Councilwoman Tillman. Ms. Nyla, on the vote, please.
Mr. Don Prespolinski,
Aye.
Mr. Simmons,
Aye.
Ms. Jacobs,
Nay.
Mr. Paul Prespolinski,
Aye.
Ms. Tillman,
Aye.
Mr. Dabney,
Nay.
Mr. Fitzpatrick,
Aye.
and Mr. Matt.
Nay.
We have 6 in favor and 2 opposed.
And the ordinance passes. Ms. Nyla, can you please read our
Dabney.
Three opposed.
Oh, Bryant,
Brian Dabney, Zagas, and
Mr. Matt.
Mr. Mack.
I got Mr. Mack being okay. On the other side.
still, okay, thank you. Can you please read our final ordinance on third reading by title only?
An ordinance on third reading by title only, an ordinance establishing a fund subsidizing sewer and lateral repairs with the city of Michigan City, Indiana. And this is introduced by Paul Prespolinski, Ms. Tillman, Ms. Deitch, and Mr. Don Prespolinski.
I am going to ask that this be tabled to our next meeting because I am working on language that was brought up at the last meeting to get it clarified as a Councilman Zagas brought up as a venting process, so we know who should get paid on this.
Okay, so we have a motion to table by Councilman Prespolinski. Is there a second?
Second.
I have a second by Councilman Don Prespolinski. Ms. Nyla, one vote, please.
Mr. Simmons,
Aye.
Ms. Jagus,
Aye.
Mr. Paul Prespolinski,
Aye.
Ms. Tillman,
Aye.
Mr. Dabney,
Aye.
Mr. Fitzpatrick,
Aye.
Mr. Matt,
Aye.
and Mr. Don Prespolinski.
Aye.
We have 8 in favor and no one opposed.
Okay, that'll be tabled to our next meeting. New business, we have none. Unfinished business. Nominations. The council has the following appointment to the Michigan City Social Status for African American Males. Term expired February 15th, 2023, and are all 1-year terms. The incumbent vacant ministerial associates. Do we have any applicants for this?
I did receive one. It was late, but it was from Mr. Jim Strelecki. Am I on the wrong one?
Oh, yeah, that's, yeah, we're on
Okay,
social.
sorry.
A ministerial.
Right.
Was there a letter from the ministerial association?
Mr. Fitzpatrick, speak up.
Was there a letter
There you
of
go.
appointment from the ministerial association?
No, I have not received any.
Nominations. The council has one appointment for the Economic Development Revolving Loan Fund. Term expires June 9th, 2023. The incumbent James Strelecki.
I'd like to make a nomination.
Wait a minute.
I'd like to nominate James Strelecki.
We have one nomination for James Strelecki. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, we have
Another name that had
If I
been
may, Mr. President.
I don't think so.
Can I say a few words about Mr. Strelecki?
Yeah.
There you go. Mr. Strelecki is a
Your
lifelong.
mic's not on.
Mr. Strelecki is a lifelong resident of Michigan City. He's the owner and president of St. Andrews Products here in Michigan City, a mid-sized company. And he already has, I believe, 8 to 10 years on the revolving loan commission. And he is a Notre Dame graduate with a degree in accounting, so he has a business background. And I would appreciate the other council members to vote for him. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Councilman Prespolinski. Are there any other nominations?
I'm
Having none. So then we vote next time. There are no other nominations.
make it.
Mr. Snow, are we, so we have one nomination only. Do we still need to wait to vote, or can we vote on it now? Or we'd have to, someone would have to move to,
I think it would depend on when your nomination period closes. I mean, or is it kind of an indefinite thing?
I think this was the nomination period.
Okay. Then I think if you've only got one nomination, I don't think you have an issue voting on it.
Okay, so we have a nomination and a second for Mr. Strelecki.
Wouldn't it be by acclamation since he's Unopposed? Well, anyway,
We can do it by
let's
roll
take a
call.
vote. Yep, I'm ready.
It's not up on the vote, please.
Ms. Jigus?
Aye.
Mr. Paul Prespolinski?
Aye.
Ms. Tillman? Mr. Dabney?
Aye.
Mr. Fitzpatrick?
Aye.
Mr. Matt?
Aye.
Mr. Don Prespolinski?
Aye.
And Mr. Thun.
Aye.
We have 8 in favor, no opposed.
Congratulations, Mr. Shrulecki. Okay, comments from the public. You'll be limited to 3 minutes.
Kathy Stransky, 223 Spark Drive. I just have one quick question. When they, like in Michiana Shores, when they tie into our sewer, do they pay a sewer bill every month like we do in Michigan City? Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Risky.
Ernie Hollahan, 302 Gladys Street. I couldn't hear you. I'm sorry. I'm missing one hearing aid. It's sent off to be repaired. You wasn't speaking loud enough. Why did you table this? Landlords.
So, yeah, it's public comment.
I can't hear you.
It's public comment right now, so the councilwoman can respond.
Okay. I just couldn't hear her when she spoke. She wasn't speaking loud enough, so I couldn't hear her with just one hearing aid. This is being dragged out forever and ever. I don't understand it. You say July 5th?
Right.
It's not going to be ready for June meetings. Still, it's been dragged out too dang long. I just don't agree with it.
Thank you, Mr. Hallahan. Comments from the public.
Hi, Tommy Kolavic, 1316 Ohio Street. I want to congratulate the 2023 graduating classes of Michigan City Marquette and Michigan City High School. Graduating from Michigan City High School is going to be Sunday, June 4th at noon. The next time we ever meet, and I'll be graduated. I especially want to congratulate my Mariana Kane. She's a salutatorian for Michigan City High School this year. I'm very proud. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Jim Fruder, Fire Marshal, Brian Gonzalez, firefighter. I wanted to slide in either under new business, but it came and went very quickly. I just want to let everybody know we had a very good, productive workshop yesterday on discussion of our new fire truck that we're looking for. Not the pumper that's being built, but the aerial tower or ladder truck that we're looking to purchase shortly. For those of you that weren't here, I don't know if you've heard or not, but our T-Rex aerial is down again, probably for at least 6 months minimum, and at a hefty price tag, which we can discuss at another time. So the truck committee, which Brian and I belong to, have been putting in time. A truck has become available. We're running our backup truck, which is a 95 ladder truck. We had discussion today during our truck committee meeting, and it was very nice to see both Chris Walensky, councilman, attended, so we can discuss our next step. I know I've only got a few minutes here, so I definitely want to share this information with you guys.
Sir, Chief, I'll tell you what.
Your mic's not on.
With what, not to interrupt, but what you have to present can take a little longer than 2 minutes.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I know there was some discussion of having a meeting coming up possibly Friday. This is something that it's not for us. It's not a want. It's a need. We want to reassure all the community members and taxpayers that they're not going unprotected. We still have a vehicle. We need to discuss the reliability of this vehicle that we have, what's available to us, and what we need to purchase down the road.
So those are some really important discussions we have to have. They're not pleasant, especially when it comes to the price tag, because we know that hand-built fire truck does not come cheap. And we know that. The good thing is if we get one, if we put our name on one now, it's available in August. We can have delivery by August. That means a brand new fire truck pumper would come to us mid-June, July. Is that right, Brian? And then a new ladder truck come end of August, which would put us where we need to be. However, we'd still be working with a 95 aerial truck. And if our new ladder truck would come in August, the T-Rex would still be up, laid up for repairs. So again, that's something that we need to discuss. And then on top of that ladder truck, another ladder truck for backup, which would be put in line for build. And you're looking at close to 3.5 years for that. The good part about that is it's a little higher price tag. However, we have 3 years to pay for that. We don't have to pay for it until it comes in. So there is a discount to pay as we go, as it's being built. I don't have those numbers right now because we don't have a final price on that fire truck. So that's something that we can think about, something we can put down, say it's cheaper if we pay as we go. So just a few things I wanted to share with you guys that the next meeting that we have or a special meeting, it needs to happen because these trucks are going very fast. This was a truck that wasn't even expected, and it fell in our lap. So if we can put our name on it come Friday afternoon, that would be a huge benefit for everyone in the city. I'll try to answer any questions that you guys have.
Not at this time. This is still public comment. So
sure,
it'll probably be more appropriate to speak during department heads.
Absolutely. I just wanted to reiterate the importance of this issue that we have. And thank you for whoever attended the workshop. It was really good conversation. And then today, gentlemen, for coming and listening to the truck committee with their presentation as well. So again, I appreciate it. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Any other comments from the public?
Yeah.
Ms. Vance.
Yes, Deborah Vance, 318 Gardena Street, Michigan City. I just had a question. I just want to clarify something. I know it's public comment, but I know when you were having a conversation about having the workshop, was there a date set for that yet or not? I don't know if I missed it.
I do not think so at this time.
Okay. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
There's no workshop.
Hi, Lorraine Rasmussen Mannion, 1405 Buffalo. I wanted to come back, first of all, to explain what may have been perceived by some as radical comments I made at the last meeting with regard to racism. Although you can argue that this is not a racist ordinance, it is definitely discriminatory. And thank you to Ms. Tillman. It can be perceived as racist, and perceptions affect elections, the outcome of elections. I wanted to ask real quick, could I ask everybody here who votes, how many of you are landlords? Show of hands. Okay. You know the saying, the road to hell is paved with good intentions. Well, that describes this ordinance. Assuming that those of you who are for this ordinance really do care about the tenants of Michigan City and not really about helping or impressing the corporations that are investing in the new improvements in Michigan City or looking for an income stream for Michigan City. Many of the problems we face in America today are from solutions that are knee-jerk remedies. You have well-intended, good intentions, but the solutions that come along from these knee-jerk reactions usually end up hurting the very people it was intended to help. And that applies here. For example, raising taxes. Usually it trickles down to the very people at the end who can't afford the tax increase. And a direct example of this concerning that landlords will sell their rental properties and bigger corporations would come in and raise rents. That's already started to happen. At the end of the last meeting, a member of an old family I grew up with here in Michigan City and attended this meeting approached me and told me he had an offer in on another property to purchase in Michigan City. But when he heard about this proposed ordinance, he withdrew his offer. So it's already started. Now, the part of the ordinance requiring landlords to pay for housing of tenants if needed, if they have to move out for repairs or everything. This is a big problem, and realtors have an obligation to inform their investors. It's a direct violation of the state constitution, as is all of this ordinance. By the way, I grew up in Michigan City, and I've always thought of Michigan City as kind of a dump. You know, the properties were not taken care of. But in the last few years, I'm noticing that there's a lot of improvements going on, maybe because of the double track or whatever. But things are going in the right direction in Michigan City. This ordinance, you're going to put a stop to it all because the landlords don't want, they're going to be fined in every different way. And they're a perfect example. People are withdrawing offers for properties they want to buy. So I think if you really sincerely care about helping the tenants of Michigan City, Mr. Simmons' suggestion was correct, should help Sue Downs, increase her workforce and help her do her job. She's a great lady and she's overworked. One of the last couple comments that I want to make is with regard to a comment the fire chief said. If you're a landlord in good standing, you have nothing to worry about. He's missing the point here. This is a violation of our private property rights, and they come from God. If a person who put his life on the line for this said, private property is not something to hide, it's something to protect. And I'm amazed at the number of people who don't care about private property rights because of technology or whatever in the last so many years. But other people, if they don't value your private property rights, your right to your body, your right to be secure in your homes, that's your right to give that up.
Your time has expired.
But you don't take away my right. Just last question is, how many of you, are you prepared for the lawsuits that will probably come from if you pass this ordinance? Thank you.
Any other comments from the public? Any other comments from the public? Public comment is closed. Comments from the council. Councilwoman Tillman.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is a PSA that I want to bring everyone in Michigan City aware of. On the 5th of May, about 10 minutes till 6, as I was leaving my residence with my grandsons and their mother, 2 individuals was approaching our residence, and they identified themselves as NIPSCO representatives. And they had a badge on and everything. And they was like, are you the owner of the house? If so, we need to see your NIPSCO. You need to provide us with a copy of your NIPSCO bill. And I'm like, and you are who? And they identified themselves. And again, they identified themselves as NIPSCO representatives. And they did not want to pretty much answer any of my questions, but they were persistent on asking, well, are you the owner of the house and is the NIPSCO bill in your name? And I said, well, whatever those questions are, you can address those to me and not the homeowner. And I said, well, how about this? Why don't you come back tomorrow? Because my thing is, I didn't see a NIPSCO truck. I did not, it was a male and a female. The female was identified as a person in training. They also indicated that there was others in the neighborhoods. And again, this is the 5th ward. And I said, come back tomorrow. They was like, oh, okay, we'll do that. Of course, they didn't come back. I did go to the controller's office to verify if anyone of any gas companies other than NIPSCO came to fill out a permit for paneling or anything of that nature. There was nothing on file. They do recall someone came in to inquire, but they never turned their paperwork back in. So I'm saying this to all residents. Be careful who you allow to come to your property and knock on your door, ring your doorbell, and they're not of an official entity such as NIPSCO or any other place. If you are senior citizens, don't open your door. Call your family member and tell them who's at your door before you open it. Thank God I was still there, because the other person that was in that home, that could have turned out entirely different. So please be aware. I also reported this to the Michigan City Police Department, and they was going to look into it as well. So just keep in mind of people coming in, falsifying their identity, that they're coming to check something like that. And their reasoning was, they said, oh, NIPSCO overcharged you 90 days. Well, if NIPSCO overcharged, you don't need to come to my residence, credit my bill. So just be mindful and conscious of your surroundings when you're going out. And if you see anything strange or unusual individuals that really look suspicious, it doesn't hurt to just call the Michigan City Police Department and just say, hey, if you feel uncomfortable, this is what's going on and this is what you see. My other last thing that I want to say too is spring, summer, the weather's changing. Last week, sitting at the house, and I'm engaging in conversation, and a bunch of children, my back door is open. So we're sitting at the table, back door's open. About 5 to 6 kids ran up on the porch, just boom, 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 boom. And I'm like, hey, what are you doing? They're looking through the screen and they tried to open up the door. Now, this is not funny, because when I got up to go outside to address them and to tell them to just go away, why are you out here? Didn't know the kids, never seen them in the area. They ran down the back alley down to Dewey Street. Okay. So I went and made sure that the person in the home was secure. I said, I'll be right back. As a council person, I got my identification badge, got in my car, because I said, if they're doing this to our resident, are they doing this through the neighborhood? So I drove all the way down to Jackson Street and came back up. Was getting ready to come back up Elk Street. I called MCPD to let them know what had transpired. So when I saw the kids, before I got in my car, let me backtrack. Before I got in my car, they was running down to Dewey Street, down the alley. And I'm like, what are you kids looking for? Who are you looking for? What do you want? Where are your parents? One of the kids hollered back, we don't know you. I said, exactly, but you're coming up to a stranger's house. My thought was, if I was a different person or whomever, that could have played out entirely different. So when I got in my car, went down the street, Jackson came back up Elk. They were standing on the corner. I had MCPD on the phone. I said, I'm going to ride past. I'm going to videotape it. I did exactly that. By the time I got back home, I made another phone call, pulled into my garage. Guess what? Every last one of them was standing behind my car in my garage. Called MCPD, told them exactly who the kids' identity was, what they had on, and everything of that nature. My only concern was I didn't want any harm to come to those children, but it was 7:30 in the evening on a school night. These kids appeared to be from 8 to 12 years old. Why are they out? So then I'm thinking, well, take them home, let the parents know this is what your kids are doing. They're going up to strangers' houses trying to get in or whatever. But they allowed them to be outside. Walking the streets, walking through the alleys freely, but they're out here doing some shenanigans. But as I conveyed to the police officers, If they go to the wrong house, that could have played out entirely different. So I say this to all parents, grandparents, guardians. If you have children, young adults, they're not too grown. You need to be mindful of their whereabouts. Letting them just out and go because they got a cell phone, that cell phone is not going to save them. They may be able to get a call out, but anything could happen. And you just need to know where your children are at all times, if you can. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Councilwoman Jigus.
Yes, I don't know if I'll remember all the questions I was asked. The reason we're having another workshop, we're going to have another workshop on this ordinance is because not only code enforcement, but other entities have come forward with some new additional ideas, which I think will be very interesting to the landlords. So I don't want to say much more until we get a little bit more fleshed out. Tentatively, the workshop's going to be June 28th at 5:30 at the EOC. That's a tentative date, but there will be official notification of that. And just got to listen and see. I would like to have something that's good instead of something that's like, well, hurry up and pass it. So yes, this is taking a long time. Everything that, is definitely worth it takes a long time. And I have a second comment, and this is really like, I was shocked and very disappointed that the people here who followed every single rule, every single notarized piece of paper, went through all the hoops, additional hoops that we set last December. They filled out all the paperwork correctly, and then we tabled their ability to get a sewer connection. For no reason, nothing wrong with what they did. They did everything exactly by the book. And I think that's really bad because they have some time constraints. Things have to be done within 30 days, etc. And now I don't know where their status is. And really, I just think it's embarrassing that they followed every single rule we made. And then we decided, well, yeah, they probably should pay more money. That was very disappointing to me. And I'm a little bit embarrassed, to be honest.
Councilman President, Paul President.
I'll say this much, Councilwoman Zegas. I brought this up before, in that you should not be impeaching somebody's opinion up here. And that's what you just did. But I want to say this about, that was a good point that Councilman Przybylski brought up. And that maybe it should be added into the, if it's not there, it should be added into the code. That was an oversight. And I just want to say that I want to thank the council members for voting for those two ordinances tonight. And that I think that we have definitely done something for the good of our neighborhoods in Michigan City. And I will not waver on that opinion. But now I want to talk about what the fire department was here to talk about. We had they had a meeting today, and they had a tape that they showed Councilman Don Przybylski and myself information about these trucks. And they also brought up the importance of getting a truck. And I brought this up to our president that maybe hopefully we could set up a meeting to discuss this, have a resolution of support for this truck. Because let me say this much. I have been following this episode for a couple of years now. We're at a point, we had a phone call. I made a phone call today to the city attorney about establishing an emergency within the fire department. But the thing is that there's a truck that was made, and we can move to purchase it, there has to be a letter sent by the chief to purchase this vehicle. And I think that it's something that we need to do, and we need to do it like as quickly as can be possibly done, which is tomorrow, 48 hours from whenever a notice goes up. And I think that a resolution that in support of what they want to do, that we support the money and that we support their efforts on sending that letter of intent to buy this piece of equipment, because one of the way it was explained to me today is that they don't always make aerial units. They make pumpers. They don't make aerial units. And if we don't move, it could be gone. And I have the fire department knows that I've been following it very closely on this T-Rex, all right, and other equipment. And the problem is this: there was no equipment replacement for 10 or 12 years in the schedule. I'll use that 10 or 12 year sequence. If there was equipment that was, replaced, we wouldn't be at this point or this juncture in time. And I think that there's money available that the purchase can be made and can be timed out with the lit money that can be put in there, but we need to do it now. It's on us. We need to do it. We need to move forward. That's where we're at this juncture in time. It's on us. So with that being said, I'm going to hopefully we'll find out what they're going to do. I said something to the mayor during the recess, and he's aware of the situation. So we need to do something. And if we got to, with our schedules and everything, if we can come together. And I think, if I wasn't mistaken, Amber, corporate attorney, said that the chief can take care of it. He wants some kind of backing from us. And I know that Tracy has something to do, and I was looking for trying to get it done on Friday. And I don't know if anybody needs to talk to Mr. Fitzpatrick about scheduling this thing, and find out tomorrow on putting a resolution together and move forward on it. But I think we're definitely at a critical juncture in time. And if we miss this one, I don't know how long it'll take. 3 months, 3 years for a ladder. And the ladder truck that they're looking at is not. It's comparable to the one that was purchased in '95. It's not elaborate. It'll function well, and it'll get the job done. And then the other piece of equipment, I think that we'll have to have. The presentation was very good that the fire department has, and move forward with that purchase. But we got to do something. Then it's a shame we're at this point.
If I can ask, is that going to be a resolution?
Well, that's I'm trying to find out. I'll let you know, because what the chief has to do to secure that truck. And if he can just send a letter of intent, we'll do that, and we'll have some meeting or something next week or whenever you come into town, because I know you want to. I know that you want to, you know, state your opinion or your vote on it. So that's all I have, and I just want to thank all the members for voting on these 2 ordinances, and that we're gonna move forward, and we're gonna hopefully get sidewalks fixed and get plan for the future. Thank you.
Councilwoman Taylor.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just real quick. So whatever this meeting is going to be, is this going to be a meeting to make a vote?
We have to have something to vote on.
Well, I mean, if he's going to present something to vote on,
We can't vote on a purchase order.
that's okay.
Well, no, I'm gonna talk to Amber LePage tomorrow and clarify on doing a resolution now or after we secure the truck, and how we're gonna fund it and what we're gonna do in the near future to order the other vehicle that's needed. Because see, what people don't realize is that the T-Rex is down, and that the only ladder truck we have is from 1995. That's the other piece of equipment that we have. You know, okay. Okay. Well, I know. I'm just talking about. Okay. Okay.
Councilman Preselinski.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Did Councilman Dabney have some?
No.
Okay, all right. Yeah, just a couple of things. More on safety, as Councilwoman Tillman. I just want to, not so much for the folks here, because I'm sure the folks here are pretty good drivers, very diligent when they drive. But one thing that I noticed is people in Michigan City, drivers in Michigan City that are running stop signs, that are running red lights. It happened twice in my neighborhood, and it happened last Tuesday night. I wasn't home. It just so happened I live on the corner of Gardena and Oak. So there was a woman coming westbound down Gardena, and she came over on a Wednesday to tell me this, because she swerved up on my front yard. And I didn't notice the tracks, but she showed me where the tracks were at on Wednesday, which was very nice of her. And so what happened? She's coming down Gardena, going westbound. Cars coming down Oak Street, going southbound. The car did not stop. That caused her to swerve and up into my front yard so she could avoid the accident. So you have that example. And then the next night, I'm sitting in my living room in my chair watching TV, and I look out the window. There's this black pickup truck. He just blew right through the intersection at Oak and Gardena, right in front of my house. And I'm thinking, if somebody would have been there, you know, a car, somebody on a bike, somebody walking, they would have been killed. So my message is to the people in Michigan City, stop at stop signs. And if you're stopped at stop signs, always take that second look to see if that car is going to stop. Don't take the pretense that everybody's stopping for you. Okay, and the second thing, and Pat's here tonight from the Park Department, been sitting here for 2.5 hours very diligently. But I had talked to Pat and Eddie Shin a couple months ago about down at Gardena Park. They have a horseshoe pit area there, and the fence was in very bad shape. I mean, limbs had fallen on it, bent the crossbars and everything like that. It was rusty and needed to go. I mentioned that to the 2 gentlemen, and Pat got the job done and got a new fence around that area. And it looks very nice, very complimentary to the park. And I want to thank you again, Pat. I know I called you yesterday, but I want to thank you again in person for the hard work and diligence that you did to get that done. Okay, all I was expecting is maybe a couple of new cross pieces, not a whole brand new fence, but it looks great. Thank you very much.
Any other comments from the council? Any other comments from the council? I had a couple quick comments. So one, I wanted to acknowledge Councilwoman Tillman from a national recognition from the Eastern Regional Intergovernmental Child Support Association. The recognition committee selected Councilwoman Tillman as the recipient of the 2023 award for professional excellence from a manager or supervisor. I guess her staff got together, wrote a letter and on our behalf, and it was selected. So she'll be recognized coming up. So and I wanted to say congratulations to all the upcoming graduates. Well, hopefully you do good things in your future and in your career. And I wanted to say to everybody who is probably medium to lower income, get your money up or move out of Michigan City, because Michigan City is hanging a big get out sign on it, and it's packaged as a rental inspection ordinance. And if you have no further questions or any other concerns, motion to adjourn.
No, I got one more comment. I want to say happy birthday to my son.
Yeah.